Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Daniel and today I am reviewing all of the books that I read in 2020. I'm going to rank them, give you a little quick how did I feel about this book, and we're going to rank them all in order. Now, the reason I'm doing this is the same reason I'm starting a YouTube channel. I want to go on this entire reading journey with you guys. I want you guys to help shape my reading journey. We can go through it together. You tell me what to read. I'll find things to read. We'll talk about them. I'll do the best reviews that I possibly can. I cannot wait to share that with you. All right, so the journey all started. One day I decided I want to read fantasy and science fiction. What have I got? Have I got anything around the house? We had one book, and that book was The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And it got my juices flowing. It got me revved up. I was keen as a bean. It broke the ice for me. It was an okay read. I enjoyed it somewhat. There was nothing wrong with it, but it was really just something to give me a little bit of a taste. That was my first book. I'm going to put that in C. Decent book, nothing wrong with it. All right, next up, I read Way of Shadows by Brent Weeks. And that was a really similar experience. It was fine. I enjoyed it, but same sort of thing. It was just to dip my toe in the pool and see where this journey would take me. So book was fine, C tier, nothing special. All right, next up, we have Ready Player One. Where are you? Oh, here we go, by Ernest Cline. Now, this was a great book. This was my first sci-fi. I absolutely loved it. I had not seen the movie yet, so I read the book first. Full of great references, really enjoyable read. This was a significant step up for me and really got me into the idea of sci-fi as well as fantasy. So Ready Player One, really good book, super fun. Next up, Pet Sematary. Also, in fact, I'll put it even ahead of Ready Player One if I can figure out how to do that. This was another great read, deals with some really heavy issues. The idea is, if you lost someone extremely close to you, how would you deal with it? What lengths would you go to get them back? Fascinating book. Really, really loved it. Dark, heavy themes. Definitely not for the faint of heart. Great read though. All right, next up. Now, these are not all going to be in order, by the way, because I didn't keep track perfectly, but I will from now on. Next up was The Shining. Now, that at that point was by far the best book I've read. It's still one of the books that I enjoyed the most. While it was scary, which I really appreciated, I love scary books, I love scary movies. The element that I loved about King's writing style is that it was psychological. We were watching this man break down and lose his mind and just totally lose control of who he is while he gets sucked away to the dark side. Fantastic read if you haven't read it. All right, next up, going a totally different direction, is Warbreaker. Now, this was another brilliant read, and this was my introduction to Brandon Sanderson. At this point, I'd started going online, watching YouTube videos, who will I enjoy, and oh man, the reviews that I saw for Brandon Sanderson blew my mind out of my head, and I totally agree. He is phenomenal, super fun, and Warbreaker was a really pretty book. It was beautifully written, very easy to visualize, and I really appreciated that. Loved the magic system, nice and simple, but really creative. I enjoyed this book a lot. So Warbreaker, straight to S tier. In fact, I would say I probably enjoyed it more than I enjoyed The Shining. So that one's in position number one for now. All right, next up was just another one to just keep my juices flowing. I went back to King and I read Carrie. Now, Carrie, there's nothing wrong with Carrie. Great book, very short, really concise, well-written story. It was nothing super special. It was just a really fun read. All right, next up we've got Dr. Sleep by, again, Stephen King. As you can tell, I am sucked in, I'm hook, line, and sinker, and I want to read all of them. Except I didn't love it. I didn't love Dr. Sleep. I actually much preferred the movie, which I saw a little while later. And from memory, I actually read Dr. Sleep because I saw that the movie was coming out. The book didn't really rope me in very much, but the movie definitely did. I loved the movie. That was a really good representation. The book was fine. We'll move on from it. All right, next up, Elantris or Elantris. I don't know how you say it. I've got no idea. I think I say Elantris. Elantris. Let's go with that. That is by Brandon Sanderson, and I think this book is underrated. I'm going to put high B for now. I might mess around with the order soon, but Elantris was a great book. It was my second Brandon Sanderson book. It was really engaging. I loved the idea. It was a bit dark, a bit morbid. I found it really fun. I know people have a lot of criticisms. I think it was his first ever published book. I could be wrong about that, but it was definitely one of the first, and I loved it. I thought it was a great read. All right, next up we've got Ender's Game. Where are we? Oh, in the first place. Now, this was a really good book. I'm going to put it right under Ready Player One. That was a really fun, really interesting idea, really fun read. I think I read that one really quickly as well. Maybe it took me 2 days to get through it. It's not a very big book. There were a couple of things within the book, a couple of plots that I just didn't think were necessary at all. But the book was really, really fun. And it was just a thrill. It was a thrill ride, really fast paced. Definitely recommend it. All right, next up is another sci-fi, and that is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You are all going to hate me. That is the worst book I've ever read. I'm so sorry. I know people love it. It's got a massive cult following. I am so sorry. I don't mean to be harsh. I'm not judging you. And please don't judge me as well. This book just... It felt like the man just threw together as many wild, ridiculous things as possible. And people seem to find it really funny. I didn't find it funny at all. I raced through it just trying to get to the end. It just didn't grip me. My friend, the same friend recommended me this as Way of Shadows. He recommended this book to me. He loves it. And I felt so guilty telling him I didn't. So I won't spend any more time with it because you're all probably already hating me right now. Please don't hate me. All right, next up, we've got The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. Another one that whoa, kidding, calm down. Straight to the top of S tier. Now, this book was incredibly hyped on YouTube. I saw so many booktubers talking about it, and this one lived up. It did, and you know what? I would say it didn't quite live up to the hype, but it was excellent. A fantastic read, really dark, really engaging, gritty, grimy, morally grey, sort of good and bad characters, just brilliant, a brilliant mix, so well written. I felt like I was in this world when I was reading it. Brilliant read, straight to the top of the table. That was just, that was the best book I read by far at that point. All right, next, where are we at? Okay, The Final Empire, more Brandon Sanderson, because how could I help myself? Straight to the top of S tier. That for me, and like I said, you guys are going to have different opinions. This list will change as we go, but I loved this book. I was texting my friend who had read it, and I was about 30 pages in, and he said, oh, I didn't love the first 30 pages. Keep going. And I said, mate, I'm loving it. Like, I am in heaven right now. I'm going to smash through this book. It only took me a few days to read that. I was reading at least 150 pages a day. Just bueno. Loved that book. All right, next up. Before They Are Hanged. Where are we? Here we go. No, this book did not do it for me. I was so hyped to get back into this beautiful world. The First Law, I loved the first one, like I just told you. This one did not hook me. It just, it didn't have the same oomph to it. The world still felt beautiful. It still felt great, but the book and the story was just really meandering and a bit all over the place, and it didn't really seem to fit in with each other and fit into place. It just felt a bit scattered, and I couldn't appreciate it as much. And I know people love the characters so much, they started just to slip a little bit for me. Now, don't get me wrong. This is still top of B. It was a great read. I really enjoyed it. It just didn't live up to what I expected from the first book. Hopefully, you can forgive me for that. All right, so then we were into The Witcher, another one that I started reading because I'd heard a lot about, but I found out that there was going to be a TV show on Netflix, so I thought, I'm going to get in before that starts. I want to be the kind of person who reads books before the movies comes out, and I can say, hey, well, I've read the book. I wanted to be that snob. You know. All right, so... where are we? The Last Wish. Loved it. I found it really enjoyable. I'll put it at the bottom of A. I know that it was only a bunch of short stories put together. I found it really entertaining. I didn't like every single one of the stories, but the ones I didn't love, I just read a bit quicker, and I was really engaged with some of the others. So bottom of A tier, really good read. Really, really good read. Couldn't really criticize too much. Next, we have The Well of Ascension, which is this one here. Now, kind of like The First Law, I thought that the Final Empire was a much better book. This one, the second one, had a lot more political intrigue and it was much more heavily focused on the politics. We've got a lot of great character development. This was a great read, but it wasn't as good as Final Empire for me. But it wasn't bad. Still, top of A. Don't get too judgy. I still loved it. It just didn't live up again. And just to give you an idea, that trilogy was probably my favorite trilogy that I've read so far. And by the way, guys, while we're talking about this, any books that you see on this list, let me know which ones you want full reviews for, because I plan on doing reviews for quite a few of them, not all of them, but definitely quite a few of them. So if there's books on here that you do want me to review, please don't hesitate. And also, based on my taste, recommend some books for me. Tell me what you want me to read next. You can see my bookshelves. I own all of these. If there's something or a series or a standalone, if you want me to read them, let me know. I will absolutely be doing that for you. All right, where are we at? Well of Ascension. Next up, The Handmaid's Tale. Okay, now, where are we? Handmaid's Tale. This book, again, I'm going to get so much hate. This book was awful. I really didn't like it. I don't think it was D tier, but I'll put it low C. But there's a big gap between A Way of Shadows and A Handmaid's Tale. I don't get it. Now, this one I'd seen the TV show first, and everyone hyped that to me, and I didn't like the show at all. I can absolutely appreciate why people did. It was really morbid, really, really morbid, which I normally love. And I loved the concept of this show, and this story, this book. I just didn't love the execution. I couldn't get into it, and the book was no different. In fact, I thought the book was worse than the show. Sorry for all the lovers out there. I'm not a massive hater, but I definitely didn't appreciate it like most did. All right, Boys Swallows Universe by Trent Dalton. Now, this book was fine. I'd say under Dr. Sleep. Nothing wrong with this book. Really fun, really light. There was nothing special about it though, nothing unique. But I did read it quickly because it was a very easy read. And a lot of people, especially Australians, this book's very popular in Australia. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think it should be. I don't think it quite deserves to be, but it was a good read. You might enjoy it too. All right, moving on. We've got to go. All right, Hero of Ages, fantastic. I'll put it slightly above. I don't know why I can't put it in its correct spot every time. I put it above Well of Ascension. Again, the Final Empire was so good. I loved it so much. And the other two, they were still excellent. Top of A tier. Fantastic books. Brilliant read. Would recommend it to everyone. It just wasn't quite as good. And I don't think it was S tier for me. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that. Hopefully you can appreciate it. I still have it very high, and I'm not doing that to make people happy. Genuinely, that is the top of A for me. All right, next up, The Witcher again. So at this point, I think that the first season had come out and I'd seen it all. I can't quite remember. Sword of Destiny. I would say probably... I probably enjoyed it more than Elantris, but not quite as much as Before They Are Hanged. It had a lot of short stories. It had probably some of my favorite short stories of the ones in the two books, The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny. But I would say that I probably preferred The Last Wish, although the best stories came from Sword of Destiny, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. I'm going crazy. Deal with it. All right, so where are we at? Ninth House, Leigh Bardugo. Now, I've actually done a review on this on my channel. It's one of my 2 videos that are out right now. I'd say probably sits somewhere there. Now, C tier doesn't mean really bad, but in terms of, this is based on my enjoyment level. So I would say that was probably C tier. All right, Last Argument of Kings, the last in the trilogy, the First Law trilogy. I would say just under the second. I think I enjoyed the first, second, and third in that order. It didn't do everything for me. It was still a great read, pretty good characters. It just didn't quite drive it home like I was hoping. So still a great read. I'm sure you'd love it, especially if you loved the first and second book in the series. It wasn't a big drop-off or anything. It just didn't quite do it for me. Dune. Wawawiwa.
Wawawiwa. King in the castle, king in the castle.
This is the best book I've read. I loved it. I loved everything about the way that the author handled this book. He delivered it beautifully. It's one book. It was written as a standalone. It turned into, I think, a trilogy. And then there was actually 3 more books, or maybe even more, written by his son and maybe his son's friend or something along those lines. But Frank Herbert's Dune, the original, is magnificent. I loved the world building. I couldn't believe how much I was able to visualize of this world and understand how it functioned within a few hundred pages. It was just so well written. I loved it. I loved that I could, even though there were a lot of characters introduced, not too many, but a decent amount, I was able to know exactly who everyone was by the way this author brought them into the story, kept bringing up their names and their titles. I knew exactly who he was talking about. I could picture them. I knew their motivations. I knew their ethics and morals. Brilliant book. Would recommend to everyone. I read that book so slowly. It took me probably a week to read, not a very big book, because I read every word. I just drank it in. Loved it. Highly recommend. All right, now the next one I read was Dune Messiah. I also absolutely loved this book. Didn't quite live up. The first book was just incredible. There was never going to be able to do that. But I enjoyed this book a lot. Did I enjoy it more than Ender's Game? More than Ready Player One? Yeah, I'd say I did enjoy it more. I don't know if it's a better book, but I enjoyed it more. I thought it was fantastic. All right, next up, sticking with science fiction, we have got Scythe. Now, this book was great. I enjoyed this book a hell of a lot. I would say Honestly, I'm going to cop a lot of flack for this. Nah, you know what? I enjoyed all three of those books better. It's going right there ahead of Elantris. All right, next up we've got Thunderhead. Now, that's the second in the Scythe series. This was also a really good book. It wasn't as good. I'm going to put it here. Yeah. No, I'm going to put it at the top of... You know what? No, I'm going to put it at the... Actually, it was probably better than Carrie. Sorry, I am all over the place. This is not that easy to do. It was probably better than Elantris 2. I'm actually going to put it right after the first one after all that, which means I have to move the other one up. Actually, no, I don't think I do. I don't know. It was good, not quite as good as the first. All right, next up, The Rhythmatist. This is awesome. Love this book. This is young adult, and I still just absolutely loved it. There you go, right behind June. Nah, that's probably not fair. I'm going to put it there. This was a great book. I flew through it. I read about 120 pages before I even realized it. Had to take a break because my eyes were getting sore. This was such an easy book to get into, easy to get through, really lighthearted, really fun, mystery, really good book. Really good book. All right, I've said that a lot. Okay, Kings of the Wild, Nicholas Eames, boom. This is just a great book. Great book. I've got a full review out already on my channel. It's one of two videos, Ninth House and Kings of the Wild. Check that out. I really enjoyed this book. Very fun. All right, next up, we've got Bloody Rose. Now, Bloody Rose, I'm going to put out a review soon. This is kind of a spoiler for you guys. So if you've seen this, you know kind of what to expect. I didn't love it. I didn't love it. It was still a good read. If you enjoyed the first one, there's no doubt you'll probably still love it. Still a good read, but not quite top tier. All right, what's next? What's next? What's next? The Long Walk. That's our last book. I don't know why I'm looking over here. It's the last one on the list. This was fine. Nothing wrong with this book. I'd probably put it, I don't know, probably somewhere here. It was fine. It was a bit boring, a bit drab. Nothing too exciting happened. The ending wasn't super satisfying. I definitely wouldn't recommend anyone particularly go out and get it, but it was absolutely fine. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this list as it stands. I'll get better at this. Guys, this is only my third video. I'm going to get better and better at this, and I'm going to be much better at explaining the books like a really quick, not a synopsis, but really, really brief. Let me know what you think. Let me know what's out of order in your opinion. Give me an idea of what you think, and also, what do you think I should be reading? Let me know. You've got my whole bookshelf here. Let me know what you thought of this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you next time. See ya!